What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today I want to do a video on the topic of life force energy and explain a little bit about what that is and how we can begin to work with it and use it in our lives to cultivate more vitality, more energy, more magnetism, to really be able to harness this life force and channel it in the right way. Can really change our lives on a deep level. You know, it can lead to personal transformation, can lead us to success in business, in any sort of venture that we put our minds to. We can direct this energy in the right way, we can be very successful. So harnessing life force energy, to understand this, we have to be able to understand that the human body is made up of multiple layers. So in the West, a lot of people just think that we're a physical body and consciousness is a result of the brain activity. But in the East, they see this very differently. They actually view the body as a vehicle for consciousness. So they believe that consciousness is more fundamental and it kind of manifests down into the physical body. And if we're looking at it through that lens, then we can see that ourselves as human beings, we exist on the multiple layers. And in the yogic traditions, they call these the 5 koshas, which is the 5 bodies. And in English, that is the physical body, the energy body, the astral body, which is like the mental and emotional body, the supramental body, which is kind of the collective unconscious, and the spiritual body or bliss body. So these are the 5 layers. And obviously we're very familiar with the physical body. You know, that is our organs, our bones, our tissues, you know, all the respiratory system, the nervous system, the cardiovascular system, you know, everything that basically goes towards functioning and sustaining our physical body. And this physical body is powered by a source of energy, right? So the next layer up from that is the energy body. And this is the level of our prana, or our life force energy, or chi, they call it in Chinese medicine. And at this level, the anatomy is more structured around the energy centers, or the chakras, the energy channels, which are called nadis, or meridians in Chinese medicine. And basically these energy channels and energy centers sustain specific functions, both on the physical level and on the sort of emotional level and a spiritual level. So when we can begin to tap into this energy body, we kind of awaken much more potential, you know, latent potential. And we also strengthen our physical body as well. So, you know, this energy body is what feeds and sustains the physical body, you know, with chi, with life force. And it's, you know, the energy centers are also linked on the physical level to certain plexuses of nerves and certain hormonal centers and glands and things like that. So on the level of energy, we're working with the energy channels in the body, and we're working with prana, or life force. So what is life force? In the Eastern traditions, they kind of describe life force as this fundamental kind of animating principle that's found in everything, especially in life forms and organic, you know, organisms and plants and things, and animals and humans. We have this abundance of life force. But it also has a sort of spiritual quality, or a spiritual essence, which kind of connects us to the wider universe and connects us to all things, basically. And we can use the analogy of water to understand life force, in the sense that water can exist in 3 states. You know, it can exist as ice, it can exist as liquid water, or it can exist as steam. And essentially it's all the same element, but it just exists in a more subtle or more refined state. as the temperature rises. And the same is for life force. So we have these 3 states of life force in Chinese medicine. There is Jing, which is the physical essence, which again is the energy that's linked to your vitality and your physical body. It governs all the physical processes in the body, the digestion, the heartbeat, the respiratory system, everything else is sustained by this Jing. And then on the next level, the energy is kind of refined and purified, and it sort of turns into Qi, or life force energy. And this is more to do with our willpower and our state of being and determination and taking action. And we can also use this life force energy to direct through different energy centers and awaken energy centers on higher levels, working with this Qi. And then it gets refined again, and it goes into Shen, which is spirit, or spiritual essence. So that is our connection to the sort of spiritual realm and connection to the wider universe as well. So as you can see, there are these 3 stages of life force energy, but essentially they all come from the same source. And this is our body's internal energy. And when we understand the anatomy of our subtle body and how the energy is refined through these different processes, and then how we can begin to circulate this energy and move it to where you want it, depending on what qualities you want to cultivate, then we really start to be able to master ourselves energetically. And this is something I always struggled with growing up as a kid, and then I had suffering from drug addiction in my teenage years and early adult years. I had this kind of energetic dysfunction where I couldn't manage my own energy. I was very overwhelmed and stressed. I had a lot of inner tension and sort of turmoil internally. Couldn't regulate myself, and I was very frantic and very kind of, my nervous system was kind of in this fight or flight response, in this stress response. So being able to work with the energy, we're not working on the physical level, we're working on the energetic level. And that actually gives us much more power. The higher we go up in the 5 bodies, if we can work with ourselves on the spiritual level, that is a very powerful way to be able to affect change on the physical level, because you're going right to the source. So the higher you go, the more you can kind of affect the code, the source code, because we come, from top down, as we manifest more into the physical body, but our most fundamental state is pure consciousness, in the spiritual essence. So if we can tap into that stuff, then we can really affect change. And this is where you see people like Dr. Joe Dispenza in his work, where people are experiencing miraculous healings by accessing states of meditation and by going to this higher state, tapping into this kind of quantum realm, where they are able to affect change, which will then reflect physically, will then manifest physically, because they've changed the source code. So, but at this level we're working with the energy body and with prana. And when we learn to cultivate this energy and circulate it properly, we basically boost our health and vitality. We become more energetically magnetic and abundant. You sort of radiate this kind of this energy field that people really can pick up on. It's subtle and it's maybe even subconscious, but people pick up on it. People feel it. And when your nervous system is regulated, when your energy field's coherent, your energy field's strong, you do have this kind of magnetic quality which will affect all areas of your life. In terms of attraction, in terms of being able to attract good fortune and opportunities, in terms of people trusting you, people feeling safe around you, and also just feeling strong and capable and confident in your body and in your energy, knowing that you can channel and direct your energy, cultivate your sexual energy and be able to control that and master that. It really gives you this kind of this edge in life, you know. Whereas if you're constantly depleting your energy through, you know, excessive ejaculation and through porn and through unhealthy habits, you know, screen time, never going outside, you know, not exercising, eating processed foods, all these things are a drain of your life force energy, you know. Even and on a psychological level, things like gossip, things like media and news and distraction and comparison, all these things are sucking your life force out of you. But the biggest one, I would say, is the leak of sexual energy through porn and through sort of excessive ejaculation. So the best, easiest way we can begin to start cultivating this life force is by retaining our semen and by practicing kind of conscious sexuality. That's not to say you can never ejaculate, but it's to be very much intentional about it, you know, and actually to do it in moderation. And the key point here is that why it differs to like just the typical, you know, no FAP or semen retention, is that you don't have to abstain, you know, from sex and from sexual pleasure if you want to, you know. This is a very specific path, you know, the path of Tantra and Taoist sexual practices. But if you really want to, you can learn, you can retrain your body to experience sexual pleasure and to even experience orgasm without ejaculation. And that's a long process of rewiring your body and, you know, through certain energetic practices, being able to build that arousal up and then spread it through the body and experience pleasure in the body as opposed to letting it build up and come out. But it's very much possible, and you know, this is the path of cultivating energy and retaining your life force, but also fully expressing your sexuality and your sexual desire, you know. So this is real energetic mastery, sexual mastery and cultivation, because a lot of, you know, the common conversation around no FAP and semen retention is that you have to repress it and you have to shove it down and you have to not act on it, you know. And that's not a good way to work with sexual energy, because it's creating this framework of shame, you know. It's creating this kind of this control and this kind of repression, and then if people relapse or they, you know, ejaculate, then, you know, there's this shame and this feeling that they failed, and it links our sexuality to shame, which is not good and it's not what we want to do. So a much healthier way to engage in the practice of semen retention is to practice these ancient kind of Eastern sexual practices, where we learn to work with the life force, cultivate life force, and draw that up into the body to actually energize the higher chakras and the higher energy centers. Because this life force, this creative potential, is the most powerful substance that we can access, you know, especially as men. You know, in one ejaculation there is hundreds of millions of sperm, you know, each with the potential to form a completely new life, you know, a whole person out of that little microscopic organism. So the amount of potential energy just in one ejaculation is absolutely massive, you know, and the amount of resources it pulls from your body to create this substance, it's very taxing on the body. It takes a lot of our resources. So when we're constantly wasting that and depleting ourselves, our body is basically always catching up. You know, our body is always trying to replenish this substance, and it's drawing minerals and vital energy from our body to try and create more. But when we retain and when we channel that energy correctly, and when we express it in a healthy way, and we give it avenues to express itself in a higher way, you know, through creativity and through building business or through personal development, spiritual development. We give our sexual energy a way to express itself in a more productive way. So naturally the energy starts to channel upwards and it starts to find its expression in a different way. So this is number one practice for reclaiming your life. You know, you cannot build an impactful life or a powerful life if your energy is constantly depleted. You know, so we have to build this vitality and this life force energy. And we can protect our vitality and our life force by, you know, having a healthy lifestyle, so getting good sleep, having proper nutrition, you know, exercising regularly, getting outdoors, getting sunlight, grounding our energy on the earth, you know, walking barefoot, breath work and yoga and qigong. These are practices, energetic practices to help cultivate and circulate energy. And as you begin to practice these things, your energy body, the capacity starts to increase. You start to be able to hold more life, more qi. And that radiates out from you, you know, and also as you practice these things, you become more perceptive, you know, you tune your perception to the more subtle level, so you will feel this energy moving through your hands, moving in a circuit around your body, you know, feeling this force field that you have around you. You know, it's a very real phenomena which you can actually feel, you know, magnetic fields and energy sort of coursing through your body. The best way I can describe it is like when you get two magnets, you know, that repel each other, you know, when you put both poles together and they repel, you know, that's kind of what you'll feel in your hands when you're working with this chi, you know, and then you learn to be able to bring it through the body, and you'll feel this kind of toroidal force field around you when you really sort of tune into your perception and increase your energy field. So qigong and breathwork and yoga are really powerful practices. They don't just work on a physical level, they work by opening up the body, opening up the channels in the body, and bringing in more life force. And this prana, this life force, travels on the breath. So it's not the breath, but it travels along the breath. So when we begin to use our breath and visualization and using our mind to basically and our breath to pull energy up from the root and from the sexual center up to the rest of the body, up to the crown, we begin to be able to move this energy, you know, using our breath and using our intention. So this is why breath work, you know, in the yogic tradition is known as pranayama. So prana is the life force and yama is control. So it's breath control, or controlling the life force through the breath. So very powerful techniques, and I'll be doing more videos on this topic and on the anatomy of the subtle body and on the energy centers and how we can begin working with this stuff. But yeah, number one cultivation habit would be to practice semen retention or semen intention. So being very intentional, and you know, 2 weeks would be a great place to start for anyone beginning on this journey. You know, try and retain your energy for 2 weeks and just see the difference you feel in yourself, in your energy, in your motivation, in your drive, in your charisma, you know, in your confidence. You know, it's not to say it's like a fix-all, like a superpower, but it, you know, it's not far from it. You know, when you really have your life straight and your lifestyle is supportive of this stuff, you know, and then you start adding the cultivation on top, you know, you do feel somewhat unstoppable, you know, and that's just my own personal experience. So yeah, it'd be great to hear your comments and your experiences with this. leave a comment down below, subscribe for more. If you're interested in self-mastery, spiritual development and spiritual growth, subscribe for more, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.